Hello guys, Satsuma Benji here with another edition of C++ Programming Noob to Programmer. Last time I was here I looked at very basic, well I ever so slightly covered the user input using std seating. Of course we have the namespace on the front because we've got it up there. Today I'm going to be covering constant variables. Oh dear. A stupid compiler. But today I'm going to be covering constant variables. Now, this might seem a bit daft having, just a variable what you can't change, but constants are quite useful in C++, and there is three main ways to define a constant, which is inside whatever scope you want it. Of course, you can do it in the global scope too up here. I don't think I've really covered scope that much, really, so I'll probably do that at some point too. But I write the word const before my type and its name, and I must set it up straight away. I must give it a value to have when I tell the compiler that there's a value called that. Because with it being constant, it cannot be edited. If I now do this, that is invalid because expression must be a modifiable value. Well, it says L value, but it doesn't really matter. This cannot be modified once it's been set. I'm not sure. Yeah, see, even if you don't set it up, yeah. I get an error on the semicolon saying const variable cvar requires an initializer, so we must make it equal something. And what that does, basically anywhere where you'll see cvar written in a statement, the compiler will just take that and replace it with 2 or whatever the value of cvar is set up to be. The second way of declaring a constant single variable is to use preprocessor macros. Do that by typing define, the variable name, and what it should be. And on this you don't put a semicolon, because what happens is this quite literally, whenever we see this, it will literally be replaced by that. If I typed that, then wherever cvar is, like that, the compiler will, there we go, error, identifier Puasvug is undefined. The define keyword, I suppose, or preprocessor macro, preprocessor directive, does not create a variable like this does. It it's wherever we see it, it will be completely replaced by what's after the space following it. Now if I get rid of these two constants and introduce a new variable type, which is the enum or enumerator type, it's declared by the same standards as any other type, so either, but that there is completely useless. What I really need to do, I'm not actually sure if that needs a semicolon. Yeah, it does. And what this does is I can now add as many variables to this as I want, all separate by comma, and by default the first variable met will be equal to 0, and every variable following will be incremented value by 1. So we go, the first one equals 0, second equals 1, 2 and 3. If I wanted, I could set that to 5. Make sure I've got a comma at the end this time, got a semicolon. And var 2 now equals 6, 3, 7, and 4 is 8. I can also interrupt the pattern by make a bigger gap doing that. So I'm going to have 5, 6, 10, 11. And I can also go back to the original pattern if I wanted to. I can declare as many as I like to be the same values. I go 5 and 6 just like 1 and 2. And how I use that is I quite literally just use that variable there. There is sorry, I can also create an instance of this variable, which I've not covered yet, but to do that I would type evar, which is now its type name because I'm declaring it there, and make an instance of that, which is basically a copy of all of this. I know this is going to seem really weird as I've not covered anything to do with structures or classes, so instancing is a new idea, so I'm not going to pay much attention to that at the moment. That's how you set up constant variables. And the idea of constant variables is if you have something in your program such as int, let's say player health, player max health, and that is always going to be the same throughout your game. You know, your player can never get health upgrades or something, or you can get health upgrades but not above a certain value if you make your game, for example. Then that, well, this could be a constant if I wanted to. I could shift it up here and type const player max health equals 10, and then in the game if I had a I've forgot the thing there. Yeah, I can start the player off being on max health, and as he takes damage it reduces, and as he gets heal up potions I can make sure that it's never above what it should be. By just comparing it and making sure it doesn't go above. I know this seems a bit pointless here. I could just keep writing the number 10. You know, I could write a 10 there and a 10 there. But the idea is that if I decide that actually the game that I've made is a bit tough and the player health perhaps might not be enough, I can just change that value to 25 and all of these become 25 instead of having to go through the program and every time I see something related to the health I've got to change it. Also the fact that giving it a name like player max health is much easier to spot than just a number. I mean, these numbers could mean anything. You know, and it could be difficult to try and find out what I'm trying to do with the code. But if I have it as a name, which it says max health, then it's much clearer to see. So that's the basics of constant types. I've demonstrated all of this using integers and the macro in the top, but you can use it with any type that is allowed to be constant. So basically all primitive types, and there are some less primitive types that are allowed to, put it simply. But yeah, I can use const car, const float, I can use anything I want. I don't think I can use constant enum because by default they are a constant. That's the whole point of an enumerator. But yeah, constant and a variable type name, and then the actual variable name, and you must set it up in the start like that. Oops. 1.5 things like that. But yeah, now you know the basics of constants and how they should be used, or how they most definitely can be used. So I think that's all for this week. Oh yeah, there was a bit of a gap between my last video and this one, compared to all the rest. Most likely I am going to be uploading once a week, and not like 3 times a week like I did starting off, but I need to start off quite quickly, I think. So once a week it is, so I can keep doing my college stuff and other things I'm busy with, mostly programming actually. But and see you later.